Prescott rolling right, throwing to Beasley, dives across the goal line. Touchdown Cowboys. Snap to Dak, looking right, fade right side of the end zone. Touchdown! It's a touchdown! That's unbelievable. Play fake, bootleg to the right. Dak to Beasley, wide open with Sauce. Touchdown with Sauce for Beasley.
I thought it was a really good team win. I thought the spirit of the team was really, really good. Zeke is a big part of that running game. You know, it starts up front with being physical, controlling the line of scrimmage, and then as the game wore on, you make bigger and bigger runs. And I thought Dak was outstanding. Just made some big-time throws and extend the lead late in the ball game. He was outstanding.
How about them Cowboys? Hope y'all had a wonderful weekend. Welcome into First Take on a Monday. Max Kellerman, Stephen A. Smith, and look who was kind enough to join us last minute, six-time Pro Bowler Donovan McNabb in the house. So good to see you.
That's a nice way to start, but we got to start talking about the Cowboys. This is just a terrible way to start.
Let me say this. I'm not the boss. I'm not management. But somebody looking to get themselves fired, they're going to start off the show talking about how about them Cowboys.
That would be me.
Don't start, Mollywood. Don't start. I'm telling you that right
Stephen
now.
A.
I'm in a very, very bad mood
Team's
today.
legit.
Very bad mood.
And they got their future quarterback. They're looking all right. All right, let's get into it, though. Actually, I want to talk about that bad man, Aaron Rodgers. So we kick things off with Green Bay's worst defeat at home with Aaron Rodgers as the starting quarterback since the 2011 NFC Divisional Playoffs. You'll remember that. That was against the Giants. Stephen A., how do you explain that bad man losing to America's team?
It's very simple to me. He's not that bad right now. I can't believe I'm saying this about that bad man that he is, Aaron Rodgers. But Max, Donovan, I don't recognize this brother. I don't know who the hell Aaron Rodgers is. I mean, I'm sorry, and I'm not one of those dudes. You know, we go back a long ways now. I don't get personal. Now, I talk about your performance on the field. I'm starting to wonder, you know, the fiance, you know, I mean, what's going on? How's the whole life? You eating the wrong stuff? You ain't getting a proper rest? I'm starting to wonder about Aaron Rodgers. You know, hey, help a brother out here because I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm seeing. I mean, this dude right now, relatively pedestrian performance, threw 42 times, threw for under 300 yards. I'm not accustomed to seeing that, Aaron Rodgers. You missed Randall Cobb, got him wide open, touchdown. You overthrow him by yards, at least by feet. I'm just looking at this and I'm saying, what the hell is happening? You audible at the 5-yard line, end up losing control. You fumble the football. You lose control. You're throwing interceptions. You're overthrowing. You're underthrowing. More importantly, I'm watching the Dallas Cowboys. They sent 4 guys after him. Then they sent 3 guys after him. They barely blitzed. They weren't even getting pressure half the time. They just threw 7 or 8 guys in coverage, and he's standing back in the pocket with all the time to throw, call his fiance, call the family. How y'all doing? This is what I want for dinner before he can even throw a pass. Had all of this time and was still missing. I don't understand what I'm seeing. Max, Donovan, help me out here because I'm struggling. I'm struggling right now.
That's what you were seeing. What happened to Aaron Rodgers was the Cowboys. This last week was the Cowboys. The week before was the Giants because they kind of had similar game plans. From what I saw, Donovan, they intentionally weren't bringing pressure. He's better under pressure. This is what the Broncos did to Cam in the Super Bowl last year. When you have a mobile quarterback, if you can contain him and take that part of his game away and turn him into a pure pocket passer, it's not that he can't do that. It's just that's just part of what he does. You're turning him into a lesser version of himself. Now, I asked Ben Alamar, our he heads up our analytics department, because I was thinking, is there anything underneath
Not the analytics.
That's right.
There you go.
Oh, excuse me for asking people who study this.
There you go with the analytics.
Who study it.
We say researcher, but you want the analytics.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying.
Excuse me for asking
MIT, Columbia, MIT. Which one is it?
I don't want to hear about those statistics. You mean the record of events? You don't want to hear about what happened?
No, we don't. We usually don't. Not the record.
Aaron Rodgers is 5th overall in adjusted QBR this year. Now listen, clearly the eyeballs tell you he's playing worse.
Right.
But also, the yards after catch, Packers used to lead the league. Now they're middle of the pack. That affects things. Even the fumble, and it's right to ask, is something going on at home, right? Because I used to wonder the same thing about Phillip Rivers, went through a rough stretch for a year or two. That can also be explained by natural variance in performance. No one is the same guy every single time. Donovan, it seems to me, He's not quite the same, but I think reports of his demise have been exaggerated.
One thing that we all have to understand is there are times when you get older in this league and your game kind of goes down. There's things that you have to change. And what they're not helping him right now with this offense is they're not running the football. Eddie Lacy has been banged up. It seems like James Starks is always hurt leading up into toward the end of the season. So you need to help this young man out. It seems to me when you watch him as well, he's overly extending plays. He's missing wide open receivers, and then he's trying to throw it to him late. He missed Rodgers on a crossing route, threw it behind him. He also missed Jordy Nelson a couple times. Randall Cobb overthrew him, but he thought it was going to be an extra play because he got him to jump off sides, or, you know, he'll catch him going off on the sideline. The thing about this Green Bay offense, and it's been that way pretty much since they won the Super Bowl, they're inconsistent. We rely so much on Aaron Rodgers because of his ability to throw outside the pocket, also in the pocket, but their defensive secondary is banged up right now. A lot of injuries in the secondary, so a lot of teams are throwing the ball on them and creating explosive plays. Yeah, they're number one versus the run, but they're not stopping the pass. So what does that do? Now that puts a lot of pressure on the offense to create that explosive play downfield, which he just hasn't been on time with a lot of his receivers.
Let me ask you this question, Donovan, because I'm looking at Eddie Lacy's numbers because you brought him up. He's averaging 5.1 yards per carry, but he's only rushing 17 times yesterday. 11 rushes for, against the New York Giants. I'm just looking at him here. He hasn't run the ball for more than 17 times in a game. That doesn't make sense to me, and especially, here's the question that I have for you. I'm trying to decipher why they're not running the ball when it's clear Jordy Nelson is not himself.
Right.
And you got more teams, you know, particularly with Ben McAdoo, because he was a Mike McCarthy protege and what have you, very familiar with Green Bay, very familiar with Aaron Rodgers. And when you saw what the Giants did, because he's their head coach, and you saw what they employed last week against Green Bay, even though Green Bay won that game, clearly Dallas wanted to emulate that, and they were wise to do so. Why is Mike McCarthy not running the football more, considering the fact that you're not getting what you used to get from those receivers?
Well, I mentioned that. Remember, James Starks, he's barely carrying the football as well because he's usually banged up. Eddie Lacy went out with an ankle injury last night. So now who do you go to? You go to Montgomery, a wide receiver, and bring him in the backfield, which ended up being the leading wide receiver for the football team yesterday. They're just not consistent in all phases of the game. If it's play action, if it's running the football or drop back pass. When I look at Aaron Rodgers, to me, looking in his eyes during the game, you can tell he's thinking about something. If it's a turnover, if he's missing a receiver. You know, most quarterbacks have short-term memory. Well, if they throw an incompletion or throw an interception, hey, we're going to the next play. It seems like he's harping on the past plays. And so now what that leads to, that offensive line now is looking at Aaron like, hey, we need you. We need you to step up and be Aaron Rodgers.
And he usually responded, and he's not responding.
And he's not doing that.
Except there's another way to look at even getting stripped of the football in the red zone like 5
when it
or 4
rains and pours, things just add on.
Yeah, exactly. But you could look at it another way. If he doesn't lose the ball there, that's not a quarterback making a bad throw. He gets stripped. It could happen to anybody. If he doesn't lose the ball there, it's probably a one-score game at that point. Third quarter, maybe the Packers go on to win. It's like a little bad luck at the wrong moment can make it look a lot worse than it is.
Let me say this to you, Max. I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers' numbers right now. This is his 5 games. Now, this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about here. Completing 58% of his passes in game 1, 55 in game 2, 62 in game 3, 51 in game 4 against the Giants, 73% yesterday. I'm looking at him from a completion percentage. He's completing 60% of his passes on the season. That is incredibly alarming. Because the accuracy is what this is why I called him the bad man that he is. In the pocket, scrambling outside the pocket to his left or his right, somehow, some way. And I guess I'm allergic to giving the Dallas Cowboys credit. I can't do it to myself.
You're not the only one.
I am allergic, and you better be, because I'd be ready to ban you from the show.
And he keeps bringing up the Giants over here, too, which is another problem.
Oh, I'll bring up the Giants plenty. Don't worry about that.
Go ahead, man. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
You know, if Tuck wouldn't have been hurt in that game, he would have had you. The Giants would have gone to Arizona.
Okay, anyway, go ahead. But this is what I will say. I will say about Aaron. When you get older, you rely on your arm a lot. And remember, he's been very successful with his arm strength and being able to put balls in different places. When your fundamentals in the pocket begin to go away, now all of a sudden your accuracy goes down.
Gotcha.
I mean, I know that you may get upset when I bring this up because you have an issue with him, but Brett Favre talked about it last night during the game. And he basically talked about during the course of your career, you'll go through ups and downs. And this right now is a time where Aaron is going down, and he's got to find a way to get himself back up.
It's been happening for about a year and a half now.
Yeah.
About a year and a half now.
Speaking of that point and his numbers being alarming, I have a little trivia question for you guys here. Here's a pair of quarterbacks since week 8 of 2015 with almost identical numbers. Take a look. I want you guys to guess who quarterback 1 is and who quarterback 2 is before we move on to our next topic.
All right. What do you mean?
It's
Look
the
right here. Exact same
profile.
statistics. So you see right there, blind resume.
Is Aaron Rodgers?
Is Brett?
Are you going to tell me?
Quarterback 1 is Aaron Rodgers.
Quarterback.
Are you going to tell me Jay Cutler?
Guess who quarterback 2
Yep.
is worse than Jay Cutler?
Oh.
Worse than Jay Cutler.
Johnny Manziel.
Wow.
Oh.
I will leave you with that, my friend.
Well, these are selected.
Let's move on.
Speaking of quarterbacks, first you want to move on with the quickness. Donovan, you had a bold suggestion for the Cowboys. So I want to play some sound, what you said on the McNabb and Custer show. You can check that out Sunday nights on ESPN Radio. Take a listen.
Do you think about not only possible trading Romo at the end of the year, but also Dez Bryant? Because think about it, you don't have the problems of having to answer questions all the time about did he make it to meetings on time? Is he complaining about the ball? Are you worried about not getting Dez the ball a lot? Are you calling plays for Dez? Why isn't he as productive as he was with Tony? You have a young team right now that you can build around your running back, around your quarterback, in which exciting things are happening for this football team right now.
Donovan, strong words there. So you think, should the team trade Dez and Romo?
Well, I think at this particular point, just talk about Tony Romo. At this particular point, he hasn't been healthy over the last 4 or 5 seasons. And the back injury is a problem. The shoulder injury is a problem. Now you have a young guy that can play from the pocket as well as outside the pocket, and his leadership skills stand alone. And I love what I'm seeing from Ezekiel Elliott. The offensive line is stable. Terrence Williams all of a sudden is looking like a solid receiver. You got Butler catching passes. Jason Witten is being a big key for them. But the thing about when you have a young quarterback, he always has something to fall back on, a security blanket. He has Jason Witten, but he also has Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley is a guy who didn't even think he would want to play football anymore. They allowed him time away to get his mind back together, and he came back, and look what he's been doing. So this is the thing about Tony Romo. Tony Romo, you know what he's capable of doing, but he hasn't been successful over the last 5 to 7 years to take you where you need to go. And then Dez Bryant, how do you miss treatments and how do you miss a meeting with a doctor to find out what's really going on with you because you're afraid of hearing bad news? Why is it that all of a sudden we're hearing that you've missed 40 times in meetings or coming to the facility when everyone is expected? When things begin to get leaked out, that means there are a lot of thoughts going on right now upstairs in management, meaning if they decide to trade you, this is why we're trading him. But you already have a young nucleus. You have a team that everybody seems to rally behind Dak Prescott. And that's what football is all about. Football is about chemistry. Football is about timing. Football is about what can you do to help us win. And at this particular point, if they trade Romo, get some good picks, if they trade Dez and get a solid wide receiver, young wide receiver that they can continue to build, that three-headed monster that we've seen Troy Aikman be successful with, you might be able to have it with Dak Prescott.
Donovan McNabb, we go back a long way.
Mm-hmm.
You know when I think you're insane, I tell you.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm telling you that now. Dez,
because I know you like Dez.
Dez, absolutely.
There with the gold chain and the X.
That too, but the brother can play.
He can play.
I am allergic to dudes that can't play. You know that.
And distractions.
Well, listen. I'm not. You know me. You and I have debated this.
That's why I threw the distractions in there.
The distractions is not something that I always place that big of a deal on. You're right in terms of your critique of Dez. You weren't wrong about anything that you said. My point is this. Athletes are hard to find. Studs are hard to find. You know that better than anybody. So if you got a stud like Dez, by the way, that guy that was Dez Bryant that was a bit problematic, that's usually when the Dallas Cowboys are losing. When the Dallas Cowboys are winning, and they're in a position right now, they have never been in the career of Dez Bryant or in recent memory for the Dallas Cowboys in terms of having two young studs and a Dak Prescott and a Ezekiel Elliott. You talking about moving Dez? Please. Romo, yes, after the season is over. Yes, no problem with that.
Wrong.
But no problem with that after the season.
Right,
but,
after the season.
But Dez?
Yeah.
Dez, I'm not letting go of Dez. No way.
Well, see, this is the thing why I say Dez, because right now, Dez hasn't been out there in the last couple of weeks, and they've been very successful this season. We haven't had any drama with Dez coming back and what's
drama?
Okay, yeah, but when you have a core nucleus of veterans, yeah, you can handle the drama. But they have a young team. The team that they have, they haven't seen Tony Romo do great things besides what he did the MVP type season when they end up losing to Green Bay. But they haven't seen over the period of time what Tony has been able to do. With Dez Bryant, yeah, he's in the locker room. He's probably the energetic guy getting everybody pumped up. Guys are following him. But yet still, Dez hasn't been out there to help them out on the football field.
I can't listen to this foolishness anymore from the two of you.
It's a matter of time before Odell blows up over there with the Giants.
First of all, Donovan McNabb, you and I go back a long way in terms of me cursing your name as I watch you on television.
You're not the first or the last.
I hate what you used to do to my Giants. But you're both so wrong about this. First, let's take one at a time. Tony Romo. The Dallas Cowboys had a problem. They didn't have a backup quarterback. It cost them their season last year. Because I felt going into the year they were Super Bowl contenders if the defense could do what they're doing now, bend but don't break.
Right.
Given that offensive line and all the skills positions. But, hey, can maybe a backup quarterback tread water, just keep your head above water?
How long are you going to have a backup quarterback till he's, what, 40?
Just keep your head above water until Romo gets back? The answer was no, because they didn't have one. They draft Dak. They thought maybe they had one. Now, the answer is, the solution is, they have a backup quarterback. It's just not the guy you thought it was.
Right.
The backup is Romo. Why do you have to keep him as the backup? First of all, imagine what the Steelers would do right now if they had Tony Romo on the bench, how happy they'd be. Secondly, you can't get any draft picks for Romo. He can't be a starter for another team because his health is unreliable, given his back injury and age. But he's excellent when healthy. You know what that is? That's an overpaid but excellent backup quarterback. Don't get it bent. Don't get it twisted because he's the star name and he's got the contract. He's the solution on the bench for the Cowboys. Why would you then trade him and create the problem you just had?
Well, it seems that Bill Belichick was smart enough to do something with Drew Bledsoe when he went with the guy no one expected to be the backup quarterback in Tom Brady. And look what that's done for them. Not saying that could happen with Dak Prescott, but this particular point, you got to step out. Jason Garrett's going to have to step out and show us the man he is. I don't need to hear Jerry Jones telling us what the next step is. I need Jason Garrett to step out and say, you know what, we're going forward with Dak Prescott.
You and I, owe our national television audience an opportunity to have this conversation, getting back to the distractions. Because you once had a teammate named Terrell Owens, who clearly was a distraction. My argument, however, was he's the best receiver you ever had. Outside of Brian Westbrook, who you utilize in so many ways.
He's a running back.
You know, he's a running back, but I'm just saying, you know, he used to catch a lot of passes for you, too. What I'm saying to you is this. A distraction may be one thing, but at the same time, if it elevates your stature as a franchise, as a team, because of the multitude of weapons you have, does that not supersede it? Does that not supersede the distractions?
For the time being.
Yeah.
But for a long term, for a quarterback, it's going to become a problem because you know, just like I do, what it does to the locker room.
Yes, I do.
I mean, right now, it's nice in New York. For the Giants, but it's going to split up the locker room with Odell and Eli.
Well, can't you wait? I mean, the Dallas Cowboys haven't won since 1995. They haven't won in 22 years.
We want to wait 5 years and they don't make the playoffs, and then we talk about, well, maybe they should have.
No. I'm talking about if you're Dallas and you're flowing right now and you're flowing in this direction for the first time in Lord knows how long, and you're looking at a level of consistency that could potentially kick in to your benefit, why disrupt that? Because you're worried about how he's going to act?
Well, I didn't say trade him right now. I said wait till the end of the year. So this now gives Dez a chance to get back out on the football field and show us what he can do.
You're wrong about Romo because you can't get anything for him and because he can back up a QB.
I'm not sure you can't get anything. I'm not sure you can't get anything for Romo. I'm not sure you can.
I'm not sure that either. Would you rather have
7th round pick?
Well, would you rather have Tony Romo or Jay Cutler on your team?
How about that?
Tony Romo.
Thank you.
Then you get something for
You can get something for.
No, because the Bears, who are looking to turn the page at quarterback, aren't about to bring in an injury-prone guy at $20 million a year. The job of a GM in the NFL is just price talent. And if you can't rely on a guy to be there all year, you're not going to hand a 35-year-old plus guy with a back injury.
And my issue with you is you stuck on this Tony Romo thing. To me, Tony Romo is irrelevant right now. Des Bryant angle is far more important to me.
Incorrect. There are two things. One, Romo should stay on the bench as the backup. You can't trade him. Two, you got to trade Dez because you're going to get a lot for him. Dez has trade value.
But why trade him if he could be the stud for you, who produces for you, who gives you an additional weapon with Dak Prescott? Let's keep him on. Hold on, y'all. Let's keep this in mind, D.
I mean, I see it. You see it.
Well, listen. I don't. Here's the deal.
They're winning without him.
Dak Prescott The Dallas Cowboys have the #2 rushing attack in the NFL.
True.
Yes,
and they have a top 5 rated quarterback in QB
QB rating, yes, but their passing attack isn't considered to be ultra formidable. Throwing in between the #2 or Beasley or Jason Witten. I'm just saying, having Dez outside the numbers, come on now. I mean, what are y'all talking about here?
Hey, Dak Prescott threw a nice touchdown outside the numbers.
The dead clock is right twice a day, man. Come on, man.
Hey, however it works.
Dez Bryant's good on any team, including the Cowboys. But if you can win without him and you have a young nucleus and no problems, and Donovan's right, there are distractions and starting to get leaked into the press, and you can get something good for Dez, trade him. Can't get anything for Romo, keep him on the bench.
Romo, yeah.
Distraction.
You know it.
We got to talk.
You know it.
We got to talk. We're going to revisit this conversation. We're going to revisit this conversation, Donovan. Distractions?
Absolutely.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
Come on now.
You know it like I do.
Donovan here speaking some sense for us. Appreciate the
Just
insight.
trying to help out. You know, I'm glad I can help.
We've been going through this for
Put on a
years.
jacket and tie next
I
time.
mean, y'all got to let me know when I'm coming
Ahead of
on.
time.
I mean,
It's not
Come
your
back
fault.
and join us
It's
again.
Want you whenever we can get you.
Yeah, Donovan.
I know you'll
How are you
know
going
how
to
to
be in
win time
Bristol
next
and
time.
not come by here?
Thank you.
Hope to see you again. All right.
Distraction.